the Rangers Journal.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's the day after the night before, I suppose. How are you doing today, Cammy?
It's I'm saying it's been a bit manic this morning, but just it's almost like the feeling on the road to Seville after Dortmund games and not having had a great night's sleep. I mean, I think I've shared in our chat and on my social media that I don't know how players sleep after a night like that. And I mean, if we had managed to get the 3 points, it would have been even. But your mind's so alert and hyper, and you're watching all the highlights and all the various. So I'm great. It's been a more positive sort of 10 to 14 days, and we're going into the cup final with a bit more belief than I think we all had maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago.
For sure. Normally after these, as you say, the run to Seville kind of nights, I'd listen to every single podcast going and be up till like 3 a.m, catching up with them all, just getting everybody's different takes on what was going on. I didn't do that last night, but that was more to do with circumstance. I watched their post-match pod, so if anybody's not seen it, please go and check that out on YouTube. It's also up on the usual podcast apps and stuff like that. But going into that game, Cammy, I mean, how are you feeling? Because I was a bit 50-50. I thought we were either going to get beat 5-0 or win 5-0.
It's one of those, I think, two teams where you don't really know what version is going to turn up. What version of the Tottenham team that has went to the Etihad and went to Old Trafford and looked like a really good side, or the Tottenham side that capitulated on Sunday. Is it going to be a Rangers Thursday night team that turns up, or is it going to be an SPFL? But I think for the first whistle, we came out with the right attitude and tempo, and the crowds played their part along with that. So I think the early part, going into it, Billy, I thought the early part of the game was going to be key. I just wanted us still to be in the game after 20-25 minutes and no lose an early goal, and the sort of the bubble gets burst and all the expectation goes out of the ground, you know. So I had hope. I didn't have massive belief, but I thought if Rangers on a Thursday night turns up, then we've got a chance of doing something, and that's the way that it played out.
Yeah, I mean I agree with you that the initial, I'll maybe say 30 minutes, I was just not wanting to go down, but at the back of my mind, I'm also thinking they threw away, you know, a 2-goal lead at the weekend. Okay, it's Chelsea they were playing, but they aren't able to keep that momentum going. We know that from Postecoglou's Celtic team, that they come out the traps and you get them in the second half. It's almost like two different games, isn't it? But going back to the beginning of the atmosphere at the game again was like your Thursday night Rangers European nights. It's almost like you can't even praise it anymore because you just expect it, don't you?
Without a doubt, and I think there was a lot of people at the game had a lot of issues getting to the game. I think subways had broke down. I think there was long queues to get in, with the usual issues with QR codes and what have you. So there was a lot of people weren't actually in their seat at kickoff. But the Ibrox atmosphere, it's different. European nights, I think it's not just a Rangers thing. I think a lot of major clubs, they crank up the volume on a Thursday night, and I think last night the Tottenham supporters really surprised me. I know we're only interested in Rangers, but they were as quiet in away support as for 2,500 to 3,000 fans. Yep. I expected more, but I think their performance off the park mirrored their performance on the park. I think our manager talks about synergy between the players and the support, and I don't see a great bond at the moment between the. But Ibrox on a Thursday night, it's always a pleasure. And the last few years, our European performances and nights have been as consistent as I've had in my lifetime watching Rangers. And last night, just a wee shame, we'll go into it, but it's a shame that we just didn't get over the line with the 3 points. But if you'd said to me at 7 o'clock last night, you would be disappointed with a 1-1. You know, it's funny how things change. I
know. It's I'm not going to say we threw away a lead or whatever, but it did feel. I'm not disappointed. I mean, you're always expect, even though it was kind of they scored against a run of play, didn't they? To a degree, they've always got that in them that they can just quickly turn and punish you. And I mean, I'm not going to put fault at anybody for their goal, but you're like, it was just kind of in the middle of the goal as well. It wasn't even like right in the top corner, right in the side. I don't know if Butland just didn't see it properly with the kind of players in front of him. Going back to the beginning of the game, we did a few videos picking our lineups this week, Cammy. It wasn't a lineup I thought we would get, but it was one I wanted to suggest, which was Jeffrey and again, I'm doing this again. Yilmaz, sorry, Yilmaz and Jeffrey, and the same. It's been something we've been wanting to see, so I was really happy to see it. But again, the manager doesn't usually pull out these kind of surprise starting lineups, does he?
Without a doubt, I think everybody expected Connor Barron to. I mean, I think Barron, Raskin, Diomande was pretty much, I thought, nailed on for your sort of three in the middle of the park, because that's what we've played in previous European matches. But Walter Smith would have been watching with pride. Walter used to love a double left back or a double right back sort of combination, and I thought it worked really, really well. But I think there was obviously thought process, and I think this is where the manager has had a bit of frustration for me, that he hasn't changed tactical approach and depending on who you're playing. And I think last night he's picked a team with the opposition in mind as well. So I thought it worked really, really well. And I mean, it's probably harsh on Connor Barron that he doesn't make the starting 11. Probably been one of our best players so far this season, but the manager picked the right selection, and it now gives us more options in this not having wingers situation other than Czerny. I think it gives us an option to play a sort of naturally left-sided player rather than playing Bajrami, a number 10, playing on the wing sort of thing. You know, it's just I think it's good to have different ways to play.
The two players I wanted to kind of give special praise. Yilmaz been one of them, but also Raskin. These two players, we've been needing them to step up, I guess. Raskin's been in his best run of form, I think, since he's been at the club. Yilmaz is still kind of coming back into the team. We need them both to be playing most matches now, but they two, for me, were the standout players last night. What do you think?
Absolutely delighted for Nico Raskin. He's had a really tough almost 2 years at Rangers. It's been very, very stop-start, but this run of games, I think, touchwood, injury-free, fitness, you know, I think that's key for him, and you can see the belief and the confidence. You know, people talk about players' confidence and stuff. It grows the more you play and the better that you're feeling. I mean, he didn't look out of place last night, playing against some really top midfield players. Ridvan, I just hope the talent has always shown with Ridvan. It's just been available consistently. And I think Jeffrey, Ridvan, the more options that we have got, and these are all young players. I think that's the exciting thing. I was a great one for. We need a number 6, and I had a message on the way back from the game last night for Scotty talking about. I had said sign an experienced number 6 and an experienced.
You did several times, mate.
You know, I mean, it's like, but there's nothing pleases you more when you're proven wrong. I had my doubts that Nico had the skill set to be the number 6, but in this run of games, and I think last night is probably as high a standard as he's going to come up against. You know, out with certainly in the Europa League, I think Tottenham's as good a side as you're going to probably face, and he's showed up great, and hopefully he just keeps that going, and it's really exciting to see. Really pleased for him.
Now, Cammy, on our, I don't know if it's a sister pod or whatever we call it, but the show we do for Heart and Hand called Ones to Watch, we had picked Igaman as maybe getting 6 to 8 goals for the season, and thinking that's a good return for his first year. He might prove us right because somebody's going to come and sign him in January. That's the worry now. He's really hit a run of form, and he's looking at well into double figures if he keeps this going.
It's brilliant. It's like I've said a few times this morning, it's the hero that the Rangers support has been looking for since Alfredo, without getting overexcited. We saw signs early in the season that Igaman, I think he came on at Tannadice and showed the basics of being able to hold the ball in and what have you. Then he had a couple of down moments. And then this last 2 or 3 weeks, his confidence must be sky high. And I thought last night, he loves a nutmeg, Billy, and I just love a young player that he just almost plays with a freedom. And listening to the highlights back, the commentator speaks about his fast feet, and I think it's very, very noticeable that he can move the ball very, very quickly. And he fantastic. I mean, 68 goals by Christmas. I think it's great, and I think we took a punt on him, and I think the manager he took a lot of criticism for signing a player for £2 million and saying some things that he's seeing some interesting things in training, and we're all saying I just want to see him on the park, and. Yep. He's now doing it on the park, and he's getting goals. And I mean, the finish last night is fantastic. But I thought, allied to the two that you said, Billy, I thought Igaman was excellent last night, and it's echoes of Alfredo at his best in the Europa League. Just having that centre forward that's able to hold the ball in, that is just going to be a nuisance to their defenders and what have you. And I think he was great last night, and just keep going. And by the end of the season, who knows how many goals he could have.
The one thing you didn't mention was after his goal is the Alfie slide, which I was very pleased to see, and just his reaction. I think Yilmaz comes up to him and they're both just screaming at each other's faces. The adrenaline, I guess, must be pumping through them at that point. But just good to see players being able to take a chance when it comes, because I think we played really well last night, but you're not always going to get the same amount of chances against a team like Tottenham that you do against, say, Ross County or any other SPFL team, to be honest. But taking them is the most important thing, and he doesn't even just snatch at that last night. It's side-footed that he puts it in the corner. It's deliberate, it's controlled. It's the same with his other goal in Europa League LA a couple of matches back at home when he slots it in the corner. It's all very, as you say, the quick feet and very deliberate. So over the moon for him. I guess special mention, as Paul's mentioned it in the chat there, was James Tavernier. I'm not saying it's it's a resurgence or whatever. I think he needed some time off or time out the team, but he's come back in, and I'm not. We'll talk about this maybe as we'll look forward to the game the weekend. I'm not saying he starts, but he's back to being a similar level to what he showed in the seasons, but especially the season we got to Europa League final.
Excellent. He was excellent last night. I thought fantastic assist for the goal. I think he's playing it into an area to try, and I think Bajrami and Igaman were both there. Doesn't matter. It turns into a great assist and a great finish. Thought defensively, I thought he had his hands full. Second half, I think Brennan Johnson and Son. I think Timo Werner had one of those nights. But Tav had defended well against him. I think to his credit, I think James Tavernier, I think that's possibly a good issue. That I think there was a lot going on pre-season. I think potential transfers out the building, etc. But I think it shows a bit of character. But I think also the manager deserves credit for taking Tavernier out of the sort of firing line, rested, rotated, dropped, whatever you want to call it. If it's given Tav a wee bit of a wake-up call, or if it's maybe energised him, or if he's want to prove a point, his performances in the last 2 or 3 games, I think, have been really good. And I think last night you're playing against top players. And Tav stops us losing the game in the last minute with a block from Solanke. I think that's been missed in a lot of the chat about Desser's chance and the offside goal and what have you. I think Tav has had a lot of criticism, quite rightly, for his defensive qualities, but I thought last night he defended well, and the block is it wins as a point. So credit to James Tavernier last night. I thought he played. That's much more like the Tav that we have seen at his best as a Rangers player.
Just touching on your point there with the manager, he is the first one of the last three managers to take him out the team, for an extended period of time. Is that bravery by the manager, do you think, Scott, Cammy, or is it just kind of necessity? It was too obvious that you needed to come out the team?
I think a bit of both, to be honest with you. I think the manager's obviously he's watching. We've often said, "Are you watching the same game as us?"
Yeah.
But he's watching a drop and a regression in Tav's performances, and that you can say the same about Dessers, exactly the same. So if you're not performing, you need to get the wake up call, and you get taken out of it, and then you have to show that you've got the balls to actually show something and come back in and score goals and show by your performances. So I think the manager deserves credit for making, whether he talks about he's 33 years old and he can't play every game and you need to manage his minutes. You can dress it up however you want, but I think he has been taken out for his own good and for his drop in performance. But it's he's now got a decision to make for the game on Sunday.
He said a lot pre-season that Tavernier needs to, his age, as you just mentioned, he needs to be rotated or have someone else, Sterling, i.e., there in that position, playing more games than he has previous. But it didn't really do that at the beginning of the season. It's only really been in the last 2 months, maybe month and a half, that he did take him out the team. That he certainly was playing him when he wasn't in good form. It's just pleasing to see him react in the way that he has. He's not, he's been a club captain, to be honest with you, mate. You can't really fault his attitude. He's not like he's went away to the press like previous players have done and moaned about things when they're not playing, i.e. Kenny Miller. He's come back in the team and he's put in the last 2 games really good performances. He gets an assist last night as well. So yeah, well, I'm going to keep that decision for a wee bit later on, mate, as we talk about the Celtic game. But on the offside goal, you at the game last night, Cammy? Is that right?
I was. It was one of those. The flag. I didn't even get up when the ball hit the back of the net because to the eye, without seeing the Lino's flag, it looked offside. And then having watched it back, it's no. The one late on when Dessers does absolutely everything right, apart from sliding the ball into the back of the net. But as I spoke to a couple of Spurs fans after the game, and I'll give the goalkeeper credit rather than saying it was a terrible miss. But I think it could have went either way in that last 10 minutes. But a draw is probably over the piece a fair result.
I don't know if you managed to watch any commentary back, but Ali McCoy's done the commentary in TNT Sports. He was he was saying he was going to come on for the last the free kick that was going to come in. He was going to put his boots on and go in. That's really frustrating when the referee doesn't let a free kick get taken when it's 3 minutes. But what was that like in the stadium? Was that a bit frustrating?
Because I expected more than 3 minutes, to be honest with you, Billy. And then I think something happened, and then you were like, that'll go on until like 9:53 or something like that. So I thought he called it early. It didn't feel like 3 minutes inside. It's frustrating. Just like if you get a corner and it's like, right, this is your final corner, final free kick. It was just a wee bit frustrating that we didn't get that final chance. But I've seen bits of Super Ali, and he's just a fan at times in the commentary, and I think he enjoys it, and I think he likes when Igaman sticks the ball in the back of the net, I think he likes to see a centre forward doing what a centre forward's meant to do.
Yep. Well, I guess unless you've got anything else to say about the game, mate, that's been 20 minutes going over it last night, but
That was great. I mean, 11. That's us. 11 points. Two games to go. I think we're pretty much qualified. I think it's just about trying to finish as high as you put. I think top eight's probably out with the, unless you can do 6 points in the next two games. But I think you want to just be as high as possible, because I think the way it works is 9th plays 24th and 10th plays 23rd and so on. And if you're in the 90-16, you get the second leg at Ibrox, which we know what happened on the run to Seville. So I think all positive. Which I think back a few months, Billy, when I think we were doing a Rangers news when the draw was breaking, and then the fixtures were coming out, and the way that the schedule has worked in our favour, and that we've actually managed to get Tottenham and Man United at the back end, but we've also picked up. I mean, that's 11 points out of 18, which is a great return, and I think we're in good. We can go to Old Trafford in a few weeks' time, and again, it's a bit of a free hit.
Mm-hmm.
We can go and maybe continue the decent away performances, but it was a very enjoyable night all round. So I still on a bit of a high today, to be honest.
Just on that point, Cam, I mean, I think a win and a draw possibly sees us through in that kind of automatic qualification point. But finishing as high up as possible obviously is going to be the key to surviving the kind of next section of things. I don't think I expected. I thought if we get 10 points out the whole thing, we'd still qualify and be doing well at that point. But I know it's only 11 points, but we're still in that top 8, I believe. So we're on track. It's these two games, I guess, Tottenham and Man United. No one's expecting us to win them. Anything can happen at Ibrox, I suppose. Going away to Man United, we played them obviously pre-season. I felt they were by far the better team, but we hadn't really gelled these new players yet. It's a different story though now that we're a few months in. Okay, it's taken a bit longer than Clement had said to us. I think he was saying as well, wait till we get to November. Still hadn't really clicked at the beginning of November, but it is clicking at the moment. So we can only go with what we're seeing at the moment, and the options we've now got with the players that are available. As I say, playing Jeff Den Yilmaz, didn't see it coming, but it's now an option. Going forward for European games at the game at the weekend. So I'm hopeful. I think we should at least go into the Man United game hoping to get something, maybe not expecting to get something, but certainly with not just wishful thinking, but we've gone away and we've won big games. We've drawn with Tottenham in a game that arguably we could have won, and some of us are feeling a wee bit disappointed that we didn't, despite who they are. And I think there's a comment up there saying that Tottenham took off £100 million worth of players and put another £100 million on with the 3 subs. It's crazy the levels of the difference.
Do you know
in money.
it's funny, Billy, when the Rangers team came out, and then I thought I'll flick to have a look at the Tottenham team, and you're like, they're talking about an injury crisis, and they're obviously Richarlison wasn't playing, and I think the two centre halves, Romero, the goalkeeper, obviously, but I mean the front 6. And then you look at your bench, and then you're looking down. I was sitting in the club deck last night, and there's Solanke, and there's Sarr, and there's Kulusevski, and I'm thinking, my God, they're going to bring the boys on with half an hour to go, and that I think if we potentially had a bit of a stronger bench, it's not a criticism on the players that came on, but that's the difference. They're able to bring on. I mean, Kulusevski's a fantastic footballer, and I think he's probably the best player in the Spurs side. But so to compete so well, and I think be brave in possession, and I think that's something that I've got to give the manager a lot of credit for setting the team up. And tactically, I thought we were spot on, and the players for executing it. There isn't a player that I would. And there's been a lot of times this season, Billy, we've spoke about not having enough players getting pass marks.
Yep.
I don't think there's a player last night that didn't do their job and didn't contribute to a very good Rangers performance. And we'll need the same again on Sunday, but there's options there, as you say. I think there will be options off the bench. You've got guys coming in that weren't available last night. So, but that's it was all very positive.
Yep, and so this is the news show as well, Cammy. So we'll go over what's happened in the last week. We did go up to Ross County, or up to Dingwall, sorry, last week. A difficult place. I mean, historically, maybe it's not, but the last couple of times we've been up there, we've kind of struggled. I guess we threw away the league last season when they beat us, despite us going ahead. Good result, but for me, it's more about the kind of growth of the team and being able to put together a run of results. I think is their best form since the beginning of the calendar year. Don't need to go into the game in detail, Cammy, but what was your thoughts on the weekend?
Stress-free, a routine 3 points, what Rangers should be doing against bottom six opposition in the SPFL, particularly away from home, where our form hasn't been great at all. We're going into a spell of domestic fixtures before the New Year game that we have to get full points on the board, and St Johnstone wasn't great off the back of the European game, but we got the 3 points. Midweek we played really well, scored a few goals, and then we've followed on from that. And that's what it's about, is building that momentum and keeping that positive run going. And we're now chapping on Aberdeen in second place, which they've obviously dropped back a wee bit. But I think we just focus on cliche, but focus on ourselves, and we can only win our games of football, and what else happens. But I thought it was just a routine, stress-free Sunday lunchtime, and I was able to watch the rest of the English Premier League action without Rangers spoiling the rest of my Sunday.
Did you watch the Tottenham-Chelsea game after it?
It was funny, Billy, that I genuinely, at 2-0, I said to my wee boy, I was like, Chelsea always win here. This game's not. I watched a thing with Frank Lampard and Gary Neville, and I think the Chelsea players and fans have always called it 3 Point Lane, because Chelsea, it's not White Hart Lane, but that's what obviously the stadium was, and Chelsea have just got this. They always win, so. It was a great game of football. That's what Super Sundays should be like, where you get loads of goals. And when you've not got any, I don't have a great affection for any English side. I just enjoy watching the Premier League. But it was good, and obviously it applies a wee bit of pressure to Postecoglou, which, as much as I don't bear the guy any ill, he's been the Celtic manager, so that. You're always going to have a wee laugh when there's a bit of misfortune for him, and he doesn't look a happy man post-match last night, and he looks like a man under a bit of pressure, which is good.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with you. I don't know if it was just we weren't particularly great against this team. I guess we beat them a couple of times, but he wasn't the kind of most. He wasn't a Neil Lennon figure for the Rangers fans. I don't think so. Animosity. I don't think I particularly like him. I think he's a wee bit arrogant. It would have been nice to put a nail in his coffin last night, though, by beating them. But again, it's not something that I thought about until I said that line there. To be honest, mate, it's not somebody that is in my head particularly often.
It's one of these things, Billy. I think that Spurs could have won 5-0 last night, and I don't think it would have gave them any kudos with their support and the media down there. They go to Southampton on Sunday, and then I think they've got a cup game next week. They're the games that are going to define if he's there longer term. But I don't bear him any ill will at all.
No, fair enough. Other things that's happened this week. I mentioned it in one of the morning videos, but Connor Barron transfer saga. It's not really a saga for us, but I know it was mentioned at Aberdeen's AGM that the fee that we were meant to pay Aberdeen still hasn't been agreed. Don't really care about Aberdeen's thoughts on it. I don't really care what we're having to pay. Well, I guess I do if it's going to be 5 million, but it's not going to be something like that. What I don't get is why this kind of thing runs on for as long. I mean, that's halfway through the season, and we still don't know what we're meant to pay for a player who was out of contract. For me, it should have nothing to do with how he goes on and plays for his new team, no matter if that's a player that we leaves us and goes to someone and does well. It should just be to reimburse the team for the cost of bringing the player through. I don't really see the the reason why there's any kind of problem with it. What do you think?
I think I listened to another pod where they spoke about the work permit rules and the sort of the rules with regard to getting a work permit and sort of thing. That's the sort of, surely there should be, right, Connor Barron's been at Aberdeen for X number of years. He's played so many games. Rangers are wanting to pay 500,000. Aberdeen are wanting us to pay $1 million. You know, sort of
Yeah.
Tally it up, and then my thing is you just meet it. The common sense thing for me is just meet in the middle. 750 grand. I think it'd be quite fair for Connor Barron, but I don't think Aberdeen are getting into Rangers. I just think they're being critical of the sort of process. I mean, I think it's laughable that you're going to be into 2025 and you're still not going to know what you're paying for a player that you signed 6 months ago. But like lots of things that goes on within the authorities in Scottish football, it's pretty amateurish, to be honest.
The other kind of thing this week was a finance or I don't know if he's a director or whatever, but I don't even know his name. I should have looked this up before. Come on, stepping down. The interesting bit about that is the timing, because Patrick Stewart takes over on Monday morning. So is this him clearing the decks, or is it a guy going for his own personal reasons? It's an interesting one.
I'm Varani's the guy's name.
Right.
The surname, I'm not sure the first name. I think he's like the commercial chief. That
I'm okay about the football, mate, so that's why I never really.
It's one of these things. It was like the timing does appear slightly strange, and I think time will tell with regard to that. I think there'll been conversations behind the scenes prior to Patrick Stewart starting, but from other fan media accounts, it appears that I don't think he ever based himself in Glasgow. I think he was doing his job like many of us, working from home, but I think he's based in London, and that's the one. Karim Varane, I think he was very much based in London. I think he'd done a reasonable job, had just continued on what James Bisgrove had done with regard to the numbers, but I think John Gilligan had spoke at the AGM about more people being within Scotland and within Glasgow and the day-to-day running of the club. And if you've got people that are heads of departments and what have you, you know yourself, Billy, you want to actually be able to build a relationship and all part of the one club and that sort of situation. So it'll be interesting to see if Patrick Stewart has somebody in mind, but it's another off-field appointment. I mean, I don't think it's as vital as a CEO or a chairman or anything like that, and I'm sure there'll be other people who'll be able to fill in. But there's a lot of things off the pitch that we need to start to fill and get a sound structure in place as quickly as possible over the next couple of months.
Well, look, mate, we've teased it a few times previous in the pod, but this is a cup final weekend, which normally you'd be looking forward to the whole week or weeks before, but we had that Tottenham game last night that kind of distracted us for a wee bit. There's no getting away from the fact that Clement hasn't beaten Celtic, and this is the stage that really would win back favour. I don't know the term, but win a lot of the fans back on board if Clement could get the team that wins a cup at the weekend. Where's your key differences in the starting lineup, do you think? Because we obviously get Danilo and Hadji available, but after last night, do they automatically come back in?
I haven't gave it a huge amount of thought, but I think it's varied. The manager, I think, spoke in his press last night about recovery. I think the double left back situation. Ridvan's not played a lot of football across the last 3 or 4 months. Does he sleep in the Cairo chamber for the next 36 hours? I think it will need an element of freshness. I think that'll be important. I think Balogun coming on last night, I would have thought Balogun would have came in to play alongside Suter. I think the manager was obviously it's still very, very, very early. We just have to see how they recover. In the ideal situation, John Suter is fit. Suter plays alongside Balogun for me. If he doesn't, it'll be Balogun and Proper. Igaman, I think Cramp has to play. Does he play as a central striker, or does he, we're in a position where there's so many, I don't think he can possibly be quite as attacking as we have done against Kilmarnock, but I don't want us to go defensive, if that makes sense. So I think Igaman has to be involved. I would ideally like to see Igaman off the left and Danilo through the middle with Czerny on the right hand side. And then middle of the park, I think Barron and Raskin will play, and then I think it's Diomande or Hadji would be the sort of supplementary midfield player, number 10, whatever you want to call it. Have I managed to skip round the issue of who plays at right back there?
But it's not. Let's start at left back, mate, because you've got Yilmaz, who played out his skin last night, and you've got Jeffy, who has been playing really well in that position. So let's start there before we even think of right back. What's your thoughts on
Jeffy? For me, I think the shirt is very much his. I think Ridvan was excellent last night. Was one of our best performers. But for me, I think Jeffy has been one of the top 2 or 3 players for us this season. He starts the game. I think excellent that you've got Ridvan now pushing to play at left back and also as an additional option 1-on. And I think Jeffy's got the potential that he could play 1-on as well. But I think for me, Jeffy starts at left back on Sunday.
The issue with right back isn't necessarily that Tav's not been playing well recently. It's the matchup, and it's kind of sometimes just about that. With Maeda, he seems to have got in his head a wee bit. I think that's fair to say. So that's my consideration when it comes to Sterling or Tavernier at right back. I think last weekend even, I would have said it has to be Sterling, but Tav has played well in the last 2 games. That I can't really complain too much if he does start. Go and give me your, off the top of your head, who's starting right back?
For me, it's Sterling. Purely, it's not a. I just think that there's too much. I can't even think of the expression. Tav's had too many disappointing moments against Maeda in recent times, and I think psychologically it is in his head. It's human nature to have a sort of doubt with regard. I would love nothing more if James Tavernier started for him to prove me wrong with regard to that. I just think that I just think it's the sensible decision is to start, and the manager using the resources that he's got available for the different challenges that he's going to face. And I think that Dujon Sterling, as much as I thought Tavernier was excellent last night defensively, and I thought he coped great, if he could put in that same level of performance defensively on Sunday and guarantee me that, then I would happily say. But it's just the worry that I think there's too much scar tissue is the expression I was looking for. There's too much scar tissue with Tav up against Maeda. So I would be starting, as much as it's a brave decision, a very bold decision to drop, rest, rotate, whatever you want to call it, your captain when he's in good form. But I think that we are the people. That's exactly, I think Tav could still be in the game. I said this before previous Old Firm matches, 65 to 70 minutes, be well in the game going into the last 20, 25 minutes. And then Tav can by all means come on and make that difference and potentially score the winning goal or get that decisive assist. I just think that Dujon Sterling defensively will be a better option for Tav on Sunday. Do I expect the manager to make that decision? No. But I think that Dujon Sterling should be the starting right back on Sunday.
Fair enough, mate. I was going to kind of take you back to that fluke. I would say fluke occurrence at Ibrox. The thing is, we were going into that game on a high. We really thought we were going to finally just put a good few by them. And then in the first 20 seconds or so, Tav gets caught and Maeda's right down his throat. And then I say a fluke goal, but it just took the whole atmosphere out of the ground. I don't think we recovered in that whole first half, to be fair. And, you know, as I say, it was. I've never seen a goal like that, to be honest with you, mate. It just happens to be Tav and Maeda that were involved in it. I would like, you're saying scar tissue, but it feels like I've been saying scar tissue with Tav since he's came here with Celtic, because he comes in, Celtic are clearly dominant when he first comes to Rangers. We get maybe two and a half seasons where we start to lay a glove on them, obviously we win 55. But it's back to that fear factor again with Tav. Is he going into this game with too much on his mind when it comes to playing against them? Is there too much fear? It's maybe not fair, because he's certainly put enough goals. You know, that free kick at Parkhead was fantastic. But we need somebody solid in that area against Maeda. Again, coming on the comment there, 70 minutes would be fantastic. And if you can put a free kick in the top corner, again, that'd be fantastic. But I think I'm with you. I think Sterling, for me, I feel safer at the moment with him there. Again, he's a young player and he's inconsistent with injuries, but if he's available, that for me is who starts there. The number 10, I guess, you've got Diomande could play in there, Bayrami could play in there, and you've got Hadji could play in there. What do you think is going to happen with that position?
I think last night he picked a team that nobody predicted. So is he then going to look at what he's got available, who's recovered well, look at the style of who Celtic are going to play middle of the park and the sort of players that they have got, and try to, I'm not saying match up or nullify, but give them different. I thought that Raskin and Barron, and I still think Raskin and Barron will both start, but I expected Raskin and Barron to start last night. For me, Raskin, Barron, and then it'll be Diomande or Hadji, sort of playing as the sort of number 10 for me. That's what I think. I thought Diomande had a really good game last night. I thought he showed a lot of his quality. Another player that has reserved his best for him for Europe. But who would have thought 2 or 3 weeks ago we would be sitting going into a cup final where you've actually got 15 or 16 players that potentially could be part of the starting 11. I don't envy the manager, but that's why he's paid the big bucks. But middle of the park for me, Raskin, Barron, and Hadji.
And the other thing is we now have a bench that could affect the game as opposed to just making subs for the sake of making subs. I don't like talking about them, mate, but where are their strong points? What do we need to look out for or be aware of for the way Celtic play? They're top of the league. They're not there because something we've done. They're there because they've won the game. So they must be doing something right. Where is the weak spots and where are the strong points?
I think Callum McGregor for me is always a key player in these games. I don't want us to give him the freedom of Hampden Park on Sunday. I want us to be playing in around about him, not giving him time to basically build. And I think he has run a lot of these games where Celtic have been very dominant. I still think they're fullbacks. I still think Johnston or Ralston and Taylor, I think they can be got at. But they are very clinical. I think that's the situation with Celtic. I think they've got players in the final third that can punish you for mistakes. So it's like don't make mistakes. But the key one for me is not giving Callum McGregor too much time to basically make it his game. And I think Ryan Kent, going back a few years, used to cause a lot of problems playing in or on around. So if that's Hadji, if that's Diomande, if that's the additional option of Danilo dropping in and Igaman, what we've seen in recent weeks, the movement between Danilo, Igaman and Hadji getting in, giving Callum McGregor defensive issues rather than him having to be on the front foot all the time. You know, he's a good player, but I think if we can get in and around about him, that will nullify a lot of Celtic's sort of build-up play for me.
We've said in the past that, you know, players like Carter Vickers are important to them as well as McGregor. I've no idea of their injury situation. The press conferences haven't happened yet, but I've noticed in the past that when he hasn't played, we haven't taken advantage of that. So if he is there, we need to be on it. I do believe. I mean, we're probably not going to see Dessler starting. We're probably going to see Igaman or Danilo or both. They are the type of players that will move that defence around no matter who's there. And that's not something they're used to playing against, you know, Kilmarnock, Dundee United, whatever. They're not used to being moved around. Like us, the majority of the game, they've got possession. So it'll be these positions where you're taking them out of the comfort zone, isn't it? McGregor, especially, as you're saying, somebody needs to just keep him out of the game. Because, I'm not going to say he's not a good player, but he's not Ronaldo. He's somebody that we should be able to manage on a regular basis, but time and time again we seem not to. Not since 55 anyway, or the season afterwards. Looking at our form in games against them, mate, it's not been great. But the tide, at least the attitude of the fans at the moment, is turning a wee bit back in favour of going into this game with a bit of confidence. Where do you sit with your confidence level?
I think it's a growing confidence. I don't get too high. Enjoy the recent run of form. Enjoy a positive performance and result last night. But the acid test and how we are always judged is against them. And Philip Clement needs to lay a glove on Celtic as quickly as possible. And I think this Rangers team, the confidence and the belief that would come from that. I said this on another pod in recent weeks. The narrative can change and the mood can change very, very quickly. If you win, you retain the cup on Sunday and you then win the games leading up to the game on the 2nd of January, you're then playing them at Ibrox. You could be in a situation where you've not won an Old Firm game of any note in a couple of years, and you could then beat them twice in a couple of weeks, or it could go the other way. It's very much on a knife edge sort of flip of the switch. I'm not going into it super confident, but I'm going into it with a belief that if we continue the attitude, the effort, the movement, and all that we've seen, the sort of incremental steps across the last 4 or 5 games, if we can continue that, we've got a real chance of lifting the trophy on Sunday. But they're rightly going in as favourites, but it's an Old Firm game. There's nothing to fear. They've had a couple of days extra recovery. Shouldn't if Rangers, if the real Rangers turn up on Sunday, we'll give them a real game. And I would say it's 60-40 in their favour, but it's not out with the bounds of possibility that Tav or Jack Butland can be lifting the trophy come Sunday night.
So I guess we'll kind of wrap it up. I've been nearly going 50 minutes already. What I was going to say is we should go into this game with confidence, Cameron. We've played teams that, okay, on paper, are better than Celtic, but we haven't beaten Celtic in as you say, a meaningful game in too long, to be honest with you. But we played Tottenham last night. Tottenham, obviously the same as Celtic, in the same position as us. Their budget for players blows us out the water. We go away to Nice and a team that's one of the top 5 leagues and beat them 4-1. It's on paper. I know games aren't played on paper, but we should go into this game with the confidence that, okay, it's not a home match, but we have played a few games at Hampden this season. I don't mean that's going to give us an edge or whatever, but there's a bit of familiarity with the stadium. We just need to go into this without the fear, as you were saying earlier on, mate, and try to impose our game on them, because we're able to do that to teams that have a bigger budget than them. Okay, they're top of the league at the moment. You need to respect that, but we shouldn't be going into this game with fear. And I think now we've got a team that don't have that scar tissue. Okay, they've not maybe beat them this season, but there's not this 3 or 4 seasons worth of constant defeats or draws against them. It is a fresh team, young team that can go in with a bit of belief that they've come off the back of good results in Europe, a good kind of form in the league at the moment, and we should be lifting that cup. I hope it is Tav, to be fair. I hope he comes on with the 70-minute mark and he gets to lift the trophy. Just would like it for him. I'm a fan of what he's done for the club. I don't want him to have, like you said earlier on, I want him to prove us wrong, that if we are giving him doubts that he's not the player he was. I mean, that happens to everyone. The age catches up with everyone. But I'm hopeful going into this game. I'm hoping that the manager has put that belief into the players. And I think, I'm maybe 60-40 in favour of us at the moment. Not, in the bookies kind of probabilities, but just that's my belief that we could go and lift the cup at the weekend. So
see going into a lot of these Old Firm games, Billy, you always talk about the first goal.
It'd be nice to get that.
It would, and I think that's and I'm not saying if you score the first goal, you're guaranteed to go on and win the game. But see, last night, going back to the Spurs game, there was a spell for 20-25, I think to about 65 minutes. I was saying to the boy next to me, see if we could get a second goal here.
Yeah.
While you're on top, and that's what's happened sometimes in Old Firm games, that they go ahead and then they score the second goal quickly, and the game's out your reach before you know it. So I think, I'm not saying the game's burst if we don't score the first goal, but give ourselves the best opportunity to be in the game going into the latter stages by scoring the first goal, and what you take from that, how they react to it, so on and so forth. But just go out and show the same mentality that we did last night. And I think if we do that, attitude, movement, all that sort of stuff, I think there's every chance we're all happy come Sunday night.
I agree with you, mate. I agree. Thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. Everyone, thank you very much for your comments. We've been able to show quite a few of them today, which is great. Thank you everyone that's watching on Twitter, YouTube, wherever you're watching from. Remember, please tell your friends about us, any other Rangers fans. Would love to grow our community, love to grow the amount of people watching us. Cammy, thank you very much.
Pleasure. Looking forward to it as 2 tickets secured for the game, and my wee boy's going to Hampden, although he's not going to find out until Sunday morning. So I'm looking forward to keeping that secret and then sharing the good news with him. So hopefully his good run at Hampden continues. But thanks again, Billy.
No worries, mate. I wasn't going to mention that in case he watches or one of his pals is watching and tells him about it.
I don't think he does watch it, unfortunately. He is subscribed to the channel right enough via his YouTube. Before Scotty says anything.
See, I wasn't going to say anything, but it's on you if he finds out about it. Thank you everyone for watching. Remember, every night is a Rangers Journal night. We'll see you soon.